So you may have seen footage of the Chinese city of Chongqing with its cyberpunk aesthetic and unique multi-level design.
A train going into a building!
Or perhaps you've seen the Hong Kong laser show, or how cool the buildings in Shenzhen look. But this is all modern stuff and doesn't really have anything to do with traditional Chinese culture. So what is the coolest Chinese city in history from a traditional point of view? Well, that title is generally given to Chang'an, the capital city of China during the Tang Dynasty, China's golden age. It was a bustling metropolis with a population of about 1 million people within its walls and around 2 million if you include the whole metro area. There were multiple Chinese and other world religions practiced in the city, and looking at the Tang Chang'an aesthetic with 21st century eyes, you will feel that it's a mix of Japanese and Chinese culture, and there is a reason for that. In this video, I want to look at what life was like in the largest city in the world at the time. This is Chang'an in China's golden age. So you may have seen a video on YouTube recently called Experience Life in the Tang Dynasty by Time Warp Cities. In this video, they use an AI trained for historical accuracy to recreate what it may have looked like. I do actually do a commentary on that video for our members, talking about what was accurate, what perhaps wasn't. So if you want to support our work with a $4.99 per month membership, which is basically just buying us a coffee each month, I will put that commentary video on the end of the video. The join button is down below as well, but if you click the video, you'll get prompted to join too. Other benefits include your comments being highlighted, so if you ask a question, we can answer you, and we do plan to have more members-only videos in the future. Now, I'm guessing that the team that made the Time Warp Cities video had probably read this book, China's Golden Age, Everyday Life in the Tang Dynasty, because a lot of what they describe in the video is contained in this book, or maybe the AI had read the book, I don't know. So anyway, in this video, I want to go through this book and talk about how life was like in China's capital, Chang'an, during the Tang Dynasty. So the Chinese word for city is Chengshi, and it literally means walls and markets, and those were distinguishing features of Chang'an and other ancient Chinese cities. Chang'an's city walls were 18 feet high and enclosed an area measuring 5 miles by 6 miles, so basically 36 square miles in total. There were 3 entrance gates on the east, south, and west sides, and a dozen or so entrances in the north where the imperial palace was. Each city gate comprised 3 doors. You would enter through the right door and leave through the left, and the middle was for imperial processions, like this one where the Tang Dynasty crown prince enters the city. Kind of makes me think of Aladdin. Yeah, they loved that kind of stuff in the ancient world, so much so that every gate in the Tang Dynasty China actually had a special door reserved for it. When the gates opened in the morning, there would be 3,000 beats of the drum. Yes, you heard that right. 3,000 beats of the drum to signal to everyone that it was the start of the day. And from this, you're probably getting the idea that Tang Dynasty Chang'an was actually very regulated, and that is certainly true. You couldn't just enter the city whenever you wanted. This isn't New York, right? It's not the city that never sleeps. They did actually sleep, and they were locked in their little areas to sleep. The penalties for breaking the rules were harsh too. If you got caught climbing over city walls, it was 1 year of penal servitude, and guards would also be punished 80 blows with a thick rod for not locking a gate at night. But one way in which Chang'an was like New York City was its use of a grid system. They had 11 avenues running from north to south and 14 streets running east to west. And these streets and avenues were wide. Streets that terminated at outer gates were 328 feet wide, and the central Grand Avenue that led from the central south gate all the way to the palace was almost 500 feet wide. That's the one Prince Ali would proceed down when he came into the city. Chang'an was split into 110 wards, which were kind of like city blocks in New York or other American cities, but they had walls around them and then small lanes within the ward to get around. These wards would also be locked at night, and the closing of ward gates would be preceded by 600 beats of the drum to let people know that it was time to go home. Basically, you couldn't leave your neighborhood at night, and the penalty for climbing over ward walls was 90 blows with a thick rod. Or if you just didn't get back in time and were caught wandering the main streets or avenues at night, it was 20 blows. But during the daytime, people could move around the city, and Chang'an had 2 markets that occupied the 2 biggest wards of the city, over 400 acres each. Now, these markets would have a huge number of merchants, both Chinese and foreign. People from Persia and Arabia selling exotic goods. The Time Warp Cities video does a great job of depicting this. The Eastern market sold more exotic goods since more rich people lived on the east side of the city. Again, like New York City, right? The Upper East Side.
Well, we're moving on now. Moving on to the east side.
And the Western market was more utilitarian. Having an East and West market is one theory as to the origin of the word 东西, which means things in Chinese. I remember my teacher at university telling me this story that because there was an East and West market, things or goods would come in from the east and west gates of the city, whereas the north and south gates were for people and imperial processions. So in Chinese, when you say to buy things, it's 买东西, literally buy east-west. But east-west together means things. These markets opened at noon, again with 300 beats of the drum. I'm sure living in Chang'an with the endless drumming, it would do my head in. Maybe it wasn't that bad, I don't know. And the markets would close an hour and 45 minutes before dusk with 300 beats of the, no, not the drum this time, 300 beats of the gong. Yeah, I don't know what would be more irritating. But anyway, so these markets were only open for about 5 hours or so in the afternoon, but there would still be smaller street markets within each ward, so you could still buy things in the evening or if you didn't want to walk too far from home. But there was one area in Chang'an that did stay open at night, and that was the pleasure quarters. Now, this book describes this place as the gay quarters, which I think could give some misunderstanding in this day and age, but it was basically an entertainment district near the East Market, open at night, which was totally illegal, but the authorities looked the other way. Here you would find wine, music, and women, to be precise, courtesans, but they were not just known for their looks, but also for their talents at dance and music. So I think it would have been actually pretty tame or even classy compared to such districts that exist today. But anyway, of this place, we will say no more.
Say no more, know what I mean? Nudge, nudge.
I will say no more.
But since we did start talking about Tang Dynasty ladies, let's talk about the fashions and makeup in the Tang Dynasty. Women wore traditional hanfu or Han couture and often had very white makeup with the hua dian or red floral design on the forehead. Actually, if you've watched the Disney live-action Mulan movie, you will have seen this kind of makeup. Mulan was set in the Northern and Southern dynasties before the Tang period, but this is actually where the style of foundation, the hua dian, and the thick blush originated. It was then developed further during the Tang Dynasty, and you get all sorts of designs, and you then get Tang women whose style looks very much like Japanese geishas, which is a style that's still in use today in Japan. And this is because Japan inherited this style from China's Tang Dynasty and preserved it for generations. You can see this Tang Dynasty lady's makeup and hairstyle both look very Japanese, but they're not. This is actually what the local style in China was at the time. The standard style for men would be these black turbans that basically every man wore. There were some other styles for important figures, but this is what the general population would wear on their head. Going back to talking about influences of Japan, many things, such as buildings in the Tang Dynasty, would have looked like traditional Japanese-style buildings that you can see in Japan today. They even used the same style of thin paper windows that people associate with Japanese culture now. I think in the future, maybe I'll even do a video comparing ancient China and modern traditional Japanese culture, and we'll see all the similarities. There's one more massive thing that I could talk about in this video, and that is the Imperial Palace in Chang'an, but I think that may deserve a whole video of its own, so I'm going to leave that for the future. Guys, if you like Chinese myths and legends, do check out Shenyun Performing Arts, the world's best Chinese classical dance company. For my US East Coast friends, they are performing at Lincoln Center in New York City until April 12th, and they also have upcoming performances in New Jersey and Connecticut. Click the link below to watch the trailer, and if you do go on to buy a ticket, use my code LCN2026 for a waived booking fee. That members only video that we talked about is on screen now, so do click in if you're a member or if you want to join, and please subscribe to the channel if you're new. We'll see you next time.